Hello and welcome to Willow Talk. Adam Peacock here with Brad Haddin. Hads, how are things?
Mate, I'm good. International summer's drawn to a close. Australia didn't get a clean sweep. The West Indians got over them in the dead rubber. Russell scored his runs once every 18 months. He came off. So, all in all, now we turn towards the 2020 and Test match in New Zealand.
Yeah, we've got a bumper show coming up. We're going to recap that third T20 in Perth. Get Hads off and rolling on his rolling 11 for the T20 World Cup. So
Pressure's on.
every once in a while, I'll just ask you who's your Wonder 11 for the big matches at the T20 World Cup in the middle of the year in the Windies and also the US. We're going to react to Michael Vaughan's comments about England being a chance in the next Ashes. And I'm going to get Hads to react to something I cannot wait to bring up.
Oh, I've been set up again, am I?
No. It pertains to Ben Stokes.
Stokes?
Yes, he's playing his
thought
100th test this week.
I wouldn't have even known that.
Chat to Dan Christian as well. Interesting take with Dan about how the T20 world is and some of his stories. And I think he's got a ripping story to tell about winning an under-19 World Cup as well, Hads, and celebrating in kind. So looking forward to catching up with Dan.
Mate, he's a good man, Dan Christian. I tell you what, I played at the start of his career for New South Wales. He went from being an aggressive fast bowler who got the yips and missed the wicket, so went to leg spinning. That lasted half a season because he couldn't land them. Then went back to being the all-rounder and the finisher we've seen at the latter part of his career. But he was a good celebrator.
Yes.
DC, at the end of a win and
a series.
And a loss, actually.
A tournament. Just in life, he was a good celebrator. Yeah. Now, before we get into it, we've got our risers and fallers a bit later on as well. Before we get into it, remember you can watch today's episode on YouTube. Follow us on social media. So hello to everyone who's watching on YouTube and all of that. Just search Willow Talk Podcast on TikTok and Instagram as well on social media. Send us a DM. Leave a comment if you want to get in touch. Alistair Rhodes commented on the video about Steve Waugh showing Hads how to slog sweep Jason Gillespie. And that was up earlier in the week. Alistair said, love these old war stories because I was a kid watching these great Mercantile Mutual Cup, Pura Milk, Sheffield Shield and ING Cup matches. Remember the sign?
I hit it.
You hit it?
Yep.
Back to that in a moment. I'll just keep going with Alistair's story. Brings back amazing memories, and at the time I wouldn't have realised who or how great a young Brad Haddin was until I was older and he was in the Aussie setup. Keep up the great podcast and content coming, guys. Thank you, Alistair, for that kind message. Bradley Haddin, where and when?
WA, straight drive, hit just to the left of the sight screen. I remember cheering with Corey Anderson, Corey Richards, is that long time ago. And I remember Justin Langer coming past, and he was a bit serious, JL, back then. We were young guys enjoying ourselves. He goes, it's not a circus out here. And I said, well, it's my effing circus now. I just won 160,000.
160K?
Yeah, I think it was around that mark. So pro rata, you got to give it to your teammates. But, I had to put a bit over the bar that night.
It went into the central pot, did it? So it was a jackpot situation from memory, wasn't it? People who come into it these days, it's not in existence. There was 2 at square and 2 straight, was there not?
Yeah, 2 straight, couple square.
Signs, not that big, like, probably a metre wide, 3 metres tall, something like that with the sponsor on it.
Well, the best one was that there was, in the end, they had a hole in it.
Oh, what?
And if you hit through the hole, it was $1 million. And I remember Warney did it at Bankstown Oval, and it looked like it was curving back into the hole, and everyone's gone, and he just said, I don't need it.
Bring it back.
Hey, we hit it heaps. Shane Lee hit it, Steve Waugh hit it, Huss hit it. New South Wales hit it about 3 times.
Shouldn't KFC Big Bash, I'm not giving KFC a free plug, but everyone knows that they're sponsored with buckets. Shouldn't they have like a bucket on 45 degrees somewhere in the outfield, and that if someone cracks a 6 and lands in the bucket, some kind of jackpot? Zinger Burgers for life or something. I don't know.
Mate, I tell you what, though, the sign, if you brought that back now, I reckon the modern-day player is good enough to aim at it. We weren't that talented. So ours was a genuine fluke if we hit it. So, mate, I remember mine was never going to miss. It was hit the whole way. So
what? So as soon as you hit it, you went,
Mate,
Did it.
I remember saying to Corey, that's going to hit. Then, and it was just we carried on like we just won the World Cup. But mate, young blokes, we're only 22.
And then JL coming
Yeah,
past. Just saying,
mate, it's not a circus. Mate, I had a quick response.
Well played. Let's get into the international stuff, and it's over in Perth that Australia lost the third T20 international on Tuesday night. Australia win the series 2-1 though, but interesting game in the sense that the Windies just flicked a switch and Australia really struggled to kind of get the tempo right in the chase. They had 2 or 3 bad overs where Roston Chase in particular really tied an end down, and Australia had no answers despite all the power hitting in the middle of the order. Did that give a little window about something to improve ahead of the T20 World Cup?
Well, I actually think it was a really successful campaign for Australia. I love what they did with that. They left the majority of their better players out. Travis Head's going to come back into the team, Paddy, Stark, and I like that they had to prepare under pressure. I thought Tim David did a really good job he's got a really fixed role in his 2020 team where he can get 30 runs off the last 2 overs, which is going to be beneficial in the conditions in the West Indies. But I enjoyed it. I enjoyed Spencer Johnson. West Indies, mate, they come good when the pressure was off. As simple as that. The series was over. Russell came out and got 71 off 29. He does that now and then, not consistent enough. But, yeah, it was a good series. I like the surfaces as well. I thought the wickets, there was 200 scored in every game. So the surfaces that were on display made from a really good contest.
Dave Warner proved himself again, even though it was weird with Davey with the summer, and he was all the talk leading into summer and at the start of summer. And then basically it was like 3 weeks where there was no Dave Warner in Australia because he was off playing somewhere else, and then life moved on. But he came back in, and I was like, oh, yeah, he's still got it at T20 level.
Well, he's going to be dangerous at the World Cup because this is the only international cricket he's going to play. He's going to only be training for T20 cricket, and he would have had enough cricket behind him with Test cricket and one-day cricket, international cricket, where his game's still at that high level. So we've seen he's going to be outstanding. He was great at the top. I tell you what he did do. See him give the man of the match to a young kid.
Well, that's coming later. Yeah. If you've seen the rundown on the other side of the page here.
No, I just like to get in early.
Hey, quick one. The guy who didn't get man of the match, unfortunately, poor old Zamps, copped a bit of tap. 1 for 65, most expensive T20 bowling figures for Australia. Is this, and we saw it in a couple of games at the World Cup, and also South Africa went after him, if I'm not mistaken, in a series over there before the World Cup, that they targeted it, like big target on Adam Zampa, take him down. Now, easier said than done.
Yep.
But is that what other teams are going to have to try and do to Australia?
Well, I can't believe teams haven't done it more. You've seen it in South Africa. We're up 2-0. Then we lost the last 3. That was off the back of Adam Zampa being targeted. World Cup, he didn't have the best 2 games to start the tournament. They targeted him. All of a sudden, we lost that. He got back into form. If I was playing Australia, I know you've got Stark, Cummins, you got all these all-rounders, but I'd be going after Adam Zampa.
Yeah.
If you go after Adam Zampa, and it's shown over a long period of time, if he's not bowling well, you beat Australia. He's been outstanding for a number of years. So, mate, I reckon you need that tactic. You need someone to be brave enough to take Zampa on and take him out of the game. And then put a bit of pressure back on the all-rounders, make them have to bowl the tough overs without Zampa there. So great tactic from the West Indies.
27 men's players used this summer. Only Josh Hazlewood played all formats. So the Hoff, around central contracting time next time, can put his hand out and say, I'm doing it all for you guys. Debuts to Bartlett, the Rooster, and Sutherland. Only 12 used in the Test series, which we've all talked about over the course of the summer because the good players are staying fit, and the first choice is staying fit. Not a lot anyone else can do. But are you seeing that utilising these players like Xavier Bartlett, Fraser McGurk, he's away off a Test team. Will Sutherland, perhaps, he's got a few ahead of him as well. But that's the way that you're being kind of positioned to get into the red ball team, the white ball team, or is it still a traditional method with state cricket?
Well, what I really enjoyed is Bartlett got in off the back of some really consistent performance at state cricket. And what we did see is he swings the ball up front. We've seen it in his one-day debut, and we're now seeing his 2020 debut. So all of a sudden now you get a little bit of an appetite to go, well, I wonder how he'd go in English conditions. Maybe the next Australian A tour, wherever it is, we give Bartlett a go with the new ball, the new red ball, and maybe we found another Boland-like bowler for a couple of years. So I like that these guys get opportunities. And I've said it a number of times. I like that they get opportunities when not all the big players are there, where they have to perform, where the captain has to go back to them when they're under pressure. But the impressive thing about Bartlett was that he swung the ball up the top. So straight away after that, seeing the one-dayer in 2020, I know your analytic mind goes, I wonder how that would work in English conditions.
Yeah.
So, yeah, great opportunity. He's taken it. I thought Spencer Johnson was outstanding also. I'm interested to see what happens in the next 12 months to 18 months with him.
In what way?
Well, I think he's going to be around about the white ball team. But I'm the other way. I think we could have a test bowler on our hands here. So what I'd like to see is that maybe starts to play more red ball for South Australia. We maybe taken on a tour with the test team just to see how they train, how they prepare, how the intensity changes. We've seen that with Morris.
Yeah.
So I don't want to pigeonhole him as a white ball. I think we could have something really special that we need to start sort of getting a bit of a plan together, what it would look like if one of the quicks went down, say Mitchell Stark against India.
What makes you think he's as good a proposition red ball as opposed to white ball?
Well, one is pace.
Yeah.
His pace and the lengthy bowls. So looking at everything he does, imagine that for 15 to 18 overs in a test match. He can bowl 150. He swings a new ball when given the opportunity. His lengths were outstanding as well. So, yeah, I'm interested to see. And I know George Bailey and Andrew McDonald, they'll have these plans in place. So don't be surprised if we see him pop up around a bit more red ball cricket because, yeah, if we lose, say, a Stark for a test match, mate, I reckon this guy can do the job.
Next up for the T20 squad is New Zealand. It's in about a week's time. Mitchell Santner will lead the Kiwi squad. Kane Williamson is on parental leave. Trent Boult named for the second and third T20s. But Australia, full tilt for these games because I think it's the last chance, isn't it, before the T20 World Cup to have a good look at them. There might be a little couple of games later in the year. But anyway, okay, Hats, pressure's on here. Yeah, I know you love pressure. I know you just kind of sprinkle on your cornflakes each morning and go, that's my pressure for the day. I want a rolling T20 World Cup first 11 from you. And this is the first chance to give us that 11 as you sit right now. Say the first game is tomorrow in the US and the Caribbean. Who's your wonder 11? Go.
Warner and Head to open.
Yes.
Marsh, Maxwell, and I'm tossing up at 5 between Stoinis and Green.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to go Marcus Stoinis. I think he's been really handy with the ball, and he's got a strike rate of 150 in the last 12 months in 2020. Tim David and Wade at 6 and 7, whatever order that decides in. I'm having David for the back end of the game. I think he can give us a point of difference.
Yep.
In the World Cup in the last 3 overs, where you go from a total of getting 160, he can take it to a 210. So I think he's worth the risk as a role player. 2 quicks I'm going in with, Paddy and Stark. Josh Hayes would obviously be in the squad, and conditions will depend on whether you play the 3 quicks. Zampa comes in as a spinner, and I'm also having in my team Tanveer Sangha.
Second spinner.
Yep. I want more options in the Caribbeans.
Wicket dependent.
Wicket dependent.
So that, like, US wickets, are we really sure?
We don't play in the US.
We don't play?
No.
Even in the knockout rounds if we get through?
No,
at all?
No, we're playing
Caribbean.
we're in the Caribbean.
So give us a rundown of those decks. Traditionally.
Traditionally, they're tied surfaces. People with pace off the ball and spin have a big role to play over there. We've seen that the way the West Indies play their 2020 cricket. So I've got Hazelwood there, and I think Hazelwood, Cummins and Stark, they'll chop and change it depending on conditions. But I want the extra spinner.
So you don't trust Glenn Maxwell to play that role like he did really well at the World Cup?
Yep. No, Maxwell's playing the role. There might be games where Tanveer Sangha bowls 2 overs.
Yeah.
but I want him to be there as a wicket-taking option. We know Zampa's been outstanding. If teams do start to target Adam Zampa, you've got a different sort of leg spinner. He goes up above the eyes. He's got more turn from right to left than Zampa. He can beat the right-hander on the outside. So, yeah, I'm taking Tanvi Sangha in the 11.
With T20s, do you find that you could go in with your 5 designated bowlers, but do you find that teams are going in with 7 options or sometimes 8 options, and that's how you play T20? Even though you've only got 20 overs to get through, you need a whole heap of options because it can get away from you real quick.
Well, tactically, you need options. If you've got 5 bowlers, you know as a batting group, okay, today I am taking a risk to target Adam Zampa. And you might sacrifice 2 wickets because if you get hold of him, they've got no one else to go to. So the one thing in Australia's favour, they've got a lot of options. They've got Stoinis, Marsh, Maxwell. Head can bowl a couple of overs if needed. So it's match scenarios where you take. You got your plans where you go in and this we're going to bowl Head maybe to a couple of left-handers. You got Zampa who'll match up well with different players. But I want the option to have another spinner in the side.
Steve Smith in your squad?
Steve Smith is, yes, at this stage. I haven't gone into 13, 14, 15. I'll come back with that. Josh Inglis will have to be.
I was going to say, so you've gone Wade over Inglis. How come at this stage?
Well, Matthew Wade, I think, has been outstanding at the back end of the game. And we've seen that when they won in the UAE. The knocks he played under pressure. You got Mitch Marsh there as well, who's a young captain finding his feet. Matthew Wade's a really good tactician. And I don't think he's done enough to be dropped. Josh Inglis will eventually get that spot. But with the World Cup being so close, Wade being a left-hander, mate, he's great at the back end of the game. Tactically, he's really good. So, yeah, I'm starting with Matty Wade.
I'm going to hold you to account for all of those ones throughout the course. And, we'll do that. Hads is rolling 11 for the T20 World Cup from an Australian perspective. Now, Hads, I want to turn focus to India, England. So third test, bit of news around. KL Rahul's out of the third test.
Big loss.
Virat Kohli's not playing, of course, but Jack Leach, conversely, has gone back to England. He's picked up a knee injury. The English are well rested after 8 days playing golf in Dubai. Really good prep for the
Smart move.
third test. Smart move?
Smart move, yeah.
Okay.
We did a lot of our prep at the back end of my career. We spent a lot of our preparation for India in the UAE. One, you get the heat. You got the facilities there at the cricket grounds there, which is the same sort of surfaces the ICC as you do in India. But you go and play a tour game in India, you come up against a team with 5 medium paces on a green wicket. So you're not getting any practice for the test match. So you might as well be in the UAE. You've got the comforts of home. You can relax and get away from the hustle and bustle of India. So I think it's a really smart move what England did.
Apart from one player, Rehan Ahmed.
Oh, not again.
The poor guy.
Yeah.
He didn't have a re-entry visa. So he's got a temporary one for a couple of days. They're sorting it out. But, he kind of got stopped at the gates to say, hey, mate, you're actually legally not allowed to come in here. So, but to their credit, captain and coach stayed behind with player to sort it all out with immigration officials and team manager. They sorted it out, got him in the country on a temporary one, so they'll sort it out overall. But that's not what I really want to talk to you about, Hads. What I really want to bring up is an article in the Times written by Mike Atherton.
Oh, this would be a good read.
It was a good read. Very good journalist.
Put you to sleep.
I learned a lot from Mike Atherton. The way he uses the English language is impressive. But he's written it's basically an ode to Ben Stokes because it's his 100th test. And congratulations, Ben Stokes. We'll maybe chuck him in a riser because 100 tests, not easily done. Big effort. But it is very, favourable to Ben Stokes. They do love him.
Where are you going with this?
Mike Atherton writes, Stokes' character and aptitude for the occasion at the highest level were immediately in evidence following a stand-up confrontation with Brad Haddin in 2013 Ashes series, Australia's experienced wicketkeeper in the first match and a maiden 100 in the second. This is quotes from the time. I wouldn't get yourself much further into this one with him, mate. Haddin was warned by Anderson in Adelaide. He doesn't quite know the difference between on and off the pitch, if you know what I mean. Nutter, said Matt Pryor to Haddin, nodding in Stokes' direction. Haddin did not utter a word after that. Immediately, Australia's players knew they were dealing with a character to be reckoned with. And in Perth, after a brilliant 100, they knew they were dealing with a cricketer to be reckoned with. Michael Atherton, The Times, this week. Your response, Bradley?
My response is, I've never heard more crap in my life. I can't remember talking to Jimmy Anderson about, and someone in their first test match, like, were meant to be intimidated by Ben Stokes. I'll tell you what did happen in that test match.
So this was his debut in Adelaide?
Yeah, well, there was a confrontation mid-wicket, and we started it. Before the test match, we heard that Ben Stokes was going to play. We didn't know anything of him. We don't know who Ben Stokes is, but one of our assistant coaches, Michael Atherton, played at Durham. He said, he's a bit of a hothead, and it affects his game. So if he's seen in, they said, go for it. And Jono and I went, yeah, if we're seeing in. So it was a plan.
Mitch Johnson, you're saying, Jono. Yeah.
If there was a plan, if you're seeing your moment, maybe you can niggle him enough. Anyway, he got the better of me. He nicked me off for 50. Yeah. And as I was walking off, there was a huge cheer. And I thought, hang on a minute. That's our guys cheering. That's the Aussie crowd. And I looked up on the screen, no ball. So I've walked back in. And as I've walked past Ben Stokes, I congratulated him on his first test wicket.
You bastard.
So I found my opening. So he's blown up. He's going on like this.
He blew up, did he?
Yeah, he's blown. I'm going back at him. Bowled the next ball, got under it, walked to Michael Clark, and Clark goes, "You got him here." I said, "I think we have." I said, "I'll keep going." So I kept congratulating him on his first test wicket.
Every over.
Yeah, turned his back. And I went to the non-strikers then. And Murray, Erasmus, the umpire, he said, "You've got this, Giddy." I said, "Mate," it was quite amusing. So for Anderson and Pryor, I went on to get 100.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I wasn't the one who was being quiet.
So Matt Pryor didn't say nutter.
And Jimmy Anderson did not,
say
saying? What, be intimidated by Ben Stokes? What was he going to do? Mate, he was a kid playing test match. Well, they didn't get their facts right there. But I did wind him up. It was a confrontation in the middle, but I got the 100. He got fined some of his match fee. I didn't get any. So, but no, I don't think I'd be intimidated by Ben Stokes.
How did the series end?
5-0.
Yeah, I thought so. I thought,
mate, good story for the Times. He's celebrating his 100th test. But
was there much chat from Stokes throughout the rest of that series?
I'll tell you what he did do. He got a good 100 in Perth. And the one thing I did notice about him is how hard he hit the ball. And he wanted to compete. He wanted to be in the contest. Not a lot of the English players did. Pryor, I think, got dropped by the end of that series. Who else? Trott went home.
Yep. Graham
Swan retired at Perth. But yeah, he wanted to compete. He wanted to be in the contest. He enjoyed the big moment of a test match, which everyone did. So, but with Anderson saying, "Well, you better watch out. Be scared of this kid, mate. You're dreaming."
He is a bit of a specimen, though, Ben Stokes. He's a.
What's a specimen? What do you
like? He's a natural athlete.
Oh my gosh, what is this?
No,
MMA or something?
Yeah, but in terms of intimidate, I'm not saying that you're packing Freddos about it.
Never.
But it has carried him through, and he's got a reputation of being able to physically dominate an attack.
No, what he's got a reputation of is standing up in big moments.
True.
It's nothing about being physical or intimidating opposition, but he's got an appetite.
Would you want him on your team?
No, he's English. And a Kiwi, so there's no way he's on my team. That couldn't be the worst. No.
In a world without passports, though, he's the type of cricketer that you want
I
in
know
your
deep
team.
down where he's from.
Yeah. You can't bring yourself to look through
your
own bias to say...
I'm taking Watto every day. He's a big, intimidating unit, and he's Aussie.
Right. I'll give you one last chance. Is this guy a good cricketer?
Very good cricketer.
Very good. Thank you, Bradley.
Very good cricketer.
Yes.
And he's
100 tests.
100 tests, longevity. And that's a sign of, great players who can play for a long time and to continue to perform under pressure. And that's the one thing he's done. That's the one thing he's done in his career. He's walked into the fire in big moments. We've seen that in his captaincy. But the Anderson And prior, that must have been a conversation between Slips and Gully because I wasn't involved in that.
He has impressed me as a captain. I don't know enough about tactics on field to say definitively he's a brilliant tactician, but what I see is him as a motivator and a guy who can, react to different personalities of his teammates. And you're reading it all, so you're not knowing it all. It looks from the outside in that he's a pretty good leader. You can point towards how good a tactician the guy is. Is he up there as a captain?
Well,
has he surprised you?
Mate, what he has got is that everyone in that team behind him and following every decision he makes. And he's got an appetite to win. He's trying to find ways to win. He's finding ways with Brendan McCullum to change the game. And he's getting the best out of this English team. So, yeah, he's done a wonderful job. Mate, it's great to get to 100 tests, but Atherton, you've got your facts wrong.
Athers, I just want to congratulate Athers for the last 10 minutes because if he doesn't write that, we don't have that. And all those stories going up on social media, I dare say.
What about saying I was quiet? I went from 50 to 100 in a blink of an eye.
There's one thing I can guarantee. I wasn't there. I was probably watching on TV, but knowing Brad Haddin as I do now, there's one thing more certain than the sun coming up in the east each morning is that no way in the world you were quiet.
I reckon.
Ever.
I reckon there's a picture. Sam will find it where I'm standing there with Michael Clark. I'm facing Clark, and we're both. I think you can see me laughing. And Pup goes, "Here he goes. You're going to go again." I said, "Yeah. Watch this." And I reckon we're looking back, laughing, and Stokes is coming over the top. As Ben will find. Sam will find it.
Outstanding. Quick one on Michael Vaughan's comments as well on the next Ashes series, which is a while off, but it'll be here before you know it, of course. England stand a great chance in the next Ashes in Australia in 25-26. Points out England have 20 tests before then. Australia only have 11. Says an old team that's won everything could be jaded by the time this series is played. No replacement for Nathan Lyon. Lack of depth of fast bowling talent, not rotating the quicks against the Windies. Batting scars with only 200s this summer. Green has technical flaws around off stump. Can't see loads of other batters knocking down the door. No Warner. Team has no mongrel. Thoughts?
Far out. Well, Vaughan has been doing his research this summer. Well, he's he's got a great analytical mind, actually, Michael Vaughan, and he sees the game the right way. And I think the series is going to be a cracker. What England are trying to do with Test cricket up against an Australian team that play our home conditions as well as anyone. The interesting thing about all this is he's talking there about not having the same personnel in 25-26. England are going to be exactly the same.
Anderson?
Well,
probably not.
You have no Anderson. Where's Wood going to be?
Yeah.
Like, how many tests can he play out here? We know he has a huge effect on the game, but that might be 1 and 4.
Yeah.
You need him playing more, and they got
Ollie Robinson.
Ollie Robinson will do a role
Yep.
out here, but he won't be as effective as most because you need some pace. So
Joffre back by then, maybe?
Well, what's Joffre want to do?
Yeah.
We haven't seen there. So England have got their own concerns.
They'll have a couple come out, obviously. They've got a talent line. Whether or not that talent line is good enough to match up to what we'll have on offer around that time.
Well, and you talk about, it says, there's no replacement for Nathan Lyon. Well, what do we need one for? Nathan Lyon's missed 1 test in 120, so his resilience are outstanding. And I think we do. We've
2 tests.
2 tests.
Yeah.
We lost after that.
2 that they did well in.
Yeah, true. You got Tanvi Sanger. You got Murphy.
Developing still.
Yeah,
both of them.
There's enough there. The series will be a cracker.
Yep.
There's good points, but yeah, no, I think Vaughan's dreaming.
Okay, fair enough. 2 former England captains sticking their head above surface level and taken off by Brad Haddin. Anyway, back in a moment with Dan Christian. We're back on Willow Talk with a very special guest today. And this man, Brad Haddin, you said to me when we had lined him up and producer Sam lined him up, he said, "Well, what? You got him off a golf course." Dan Christian joining us now, who has recently, of course, retired from cricket. Dan, it doesn't look like, as we look at you right now on the video, it doesn't look like you're on a golf course. So we've been able to get some time with you when you don't have the sticks in your hands.
Yeah, well, right now I don't, but out that window is a golf course. So.
Oh, no way. That's life now, is it, basically?
Yeah, it is. It is as much as I possibly can in between sort of coaching commitments and a little bit of Fox Fox Cricket and daddy daycare of my 2-year-old, I'm playing as much golf as possible.
Excellent. You mentioned the coaching commitments. What are they?
I did the Sydney Thunder in the BBL, which was really good fun. Working under Trevor Bayliss, who was my New South Wales under-19s coach, and so nice to reunite with him, and worked with Dan Smith and Sean Bradstreet on that coaching team as well, who I both played some junior stuff with and against when I was at New South Wales back in the day. So yeah, nice to work with those guys. We didn't have a great tournament, but being only a 10-game season this year, you had to get off to a really good start, and unfortunately we lost a few close ones and just weren't able to get back into it.
Yeah, don't really want to talk about the start you had with the Thunder. What I want to talk about, Danny, is your learnings. How was it going from playing? I know you did some work with the Netherlands and they were successful when you got involved with them, but what were your learnings out of your first introduction to coaching in Australia?
Yeah, it was an interesting one. You sort of go in with some ideas of how you want to, I guess, impart your knowledge on the group and help different guys out that I've played a lot against. Guys like Dan Sams, Chris Green, Ollie Davies, blokes like that I've Nathan McAndrew, those guys that sort of play that middle order kind of role that I did for quite a while. So. Having played against them and got some of my own ideas on how I may have been able to help them out. The most difficult thing I found with 2020 tournaments, and Hads, you would have seen this a little bit yourself, is because they're so short and sharp, it's hard to really give too many of your ideas and in such a short amount of time. You want to make sure that the guys are in a really good headspace and they're feeling good about what they're about to do. And because you don't have a lot of time to really impress yourself on them, you've got to sort of do bits and pieces as much as you can, but still make them feel as comfortable as possible.
What I don't get, Dan, with some recently retired cricketers is that I don't know what place you were in, but I've heard some other stories of guys when they were done, they were done. Like Hads says that he just woke up one day and he went, I'm fried, I'm done, I'm cooked. But you, whether it be quickly or eventually, you find yourself back in the game somehow, either coaching or media or whatever you're trying to do, all of the above. Don't you want to go off and do something else in life, or is it just the game's in your blood and you can't get rid of it?
Yeah, I think that's exactly it. The thing that I found the most in my last season was that I'd had enough of was the training. I found the training was getting boring to me, and I wasn't pushing myself as much as I had in years gone by when I'd been playing some really good cricket. And subsequently, I wasn't training that well, so then I'd be getting to games and I knew I was underdone. And then going out there without that same level of confidence that I had done in the past. So after having a bit of a break, you retire and then you have a bit of a break, and then you get a little bit itchy to be around the boys again. And as you say, it's the game's in your blood. So and I still love the game of cricket. I'm playing a little bit down in the country now, which is fantastic because I don't have to train. But then I'm still getting my fix by doing that, by being being at the Thunder and then doing the Fox stuff as well. So it's I'm finding it's a really good balance at the moment, and I'm getting that fix of being in the change room and still being around the team
and playing golf a lot.
Playing golf. Exactly
Dan, you've won titles all over the world. Wherever you went, you just look. If Dan Christian's there, there's going to be another title. But where does the Big Bash stand with all the other titles you've been involved in and the competitions?
They're right up there. I think just because it's my home tournament. So first one in BBL 2 for the Brisbane Heat. Spent a couple of years there. I spent 4 years there and really enjoyed my time and my experience there. And that was when the Big Bash just kicked off. We had the state-based one at the beginning that was great fun. And we were pretty surprised that they actually decided to go down the more city-based and change all the names and change the colours and whatever. I think we won. I think we might have won the last one when I was at South Australia. We won the very last one of the state-based ones, and we were getting, 25,000 at the Adelaide Oval to watch those games, and absolutely loved it. So we were really surprised that they changed it. But then when they did change it, the crowds got even better, the TV coverage got even better, and the competition's just grown and gotten better and better. So I think playing in front of your home crowd and in your home stadiums, being able to play at the Adelaide Oval packed out, the SCG packed out, the MCG packed out, it's really, really special. And so from that perspective, I guess the ones that I've won at home are probably the best, probably the most enjoyable.
Mate, you got more tracksuits than a rack at Vinnie's, basically. You've, like the amount of teams that you've played for. Just go fair enough too. Great pickup. Go down to your local Vinnie's, you might cop either a Delhi Daredevils, Karachi Kings, Molten Sultans, Rising Pune Supergiants, Trinidad Knight Riders, Barbados Tridents, Deccan Chargers, what else we got here? Royal Challengers Bangalore. They're the overseas ones. Most out there experience throughout all of that?
Molten Sultans went over there, and at that stage the Pakistan was closed to international cricket, and we had majority of the tournament. Well, the whole tournament was played in Dubai. And then the finals were going to be in Pakistan. And it was the first time any team had travelled to Pakistan, any teams or any competition had been on in Pakistan. So went over to Dubai, and the news, rumblings in the news, there were bombings up the north of Pakistan, and we were like, oh no, there's no chance we're going. It's not going to happen. Anyway, we end up going. So we're on this, they fly us in there on an Emirates flight, and we land. And security gets on and tells all the players, it's just a normal commercial flight. Security gets on, tell us to just wait. We're going to wait on the side, or we go up the front and we wait on the side up the front. All the passengers get off, and then we get off. And instead of going into the terminal, we go down the stairs onto the tarmac, and there is military everywhere. So we're shitting ourselves. And then we get into this bus. It's like a 22-seat bus, and it's bomb-proof. So you get inside it. Hadji might have been on one of these over there at some stage, but they're like, the walls in this thing are they're a foot thick. Wow. There's hardly, the windows are like, they're about that big. You're in the bottom of a ship. And then off you go in this, and off you go in this convoy of military. So in front of you, you've got a couple of sort of Toyota Hiluxes, and there's 6 or 7 army officers in the back, all with machine guns, and then they're behind you. And then you look up, and there's snipers on the roof of the hotels. All the roads are shut. So if I wasn't scared before we got there, I definitely was by the time we arrived. It was extraordinary, and it was actually really, really safe. And the whole point of having that level of security was to try and make us feel even safer. But it was it sort of gave the opposite idea to all of us. We flew in the morning of the game, landed about 6 or 7 in the morning. We played at lunchtime, and we were on the 4:30 Emirates flight back to Dubai that afternoon. And that was it.
Holy
done.
moly. Amazing.
So that's probably the most crazy. Yeah. But it was awesome. The crowds absolutely loved it. And I'm glad that cricket's gone back to Pakistan now, because it is a beautiful place to play, and the people are really welcoming, and the cricket's great over there as well.
It's interesting you say that, because I played in the first edition of the PSL in Dubai, and we were lucky enough to make the final, and we had the great Wasim the banker. He was with us as one of our assistant coaches, and I remember talking about the players are talking about pressure in the final. Wasim goes, "You guys don't understand pressure. Did you know there's about 300 million watching this game at home? There's no pressure on you whatsoever. You just think, oh." But their passion for the game over there, Dan, it's hard to explain. The closest thing you can do to explain it is when India played Pakistan in the 2020 at the MCG. That's tenfold what happens in those tournaments, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly right. They're Pakistan Super League and the IPL. They're as fanatical as you'll get. So, when they end up playing against each other in international cricket, you can understand why it goes berserk.
And international cricket, Dan, 43 games for Australia. You're happy with where that all ended?
I think in hindsight, I have to be Hads, yeah.
Yep.
But, at different stages, I certainly would have liked to have had more opportunities, particularly early on, because I just don't feel that I played anywhere near my best cricket when I had an Australian shirt on. I probably played my best cricket in that period in the middle, sort of after I'd made my debut in my late 20s, and then when I ended up not playing in my sort of early to mid 30s, that's when I was playing my best cricket. Got a nice to get an opportunity during COVID when we went over to Bangladesh and the West Indies for a couple of 2020 series. That was nice, a nice reward, I guess, for the few years of success that I'd been having in domestic cricket around the world. But feel like I probably missed my opportunity. Missed my chance to really nail it down when I did play. It would have been nice to have an opportunity again a little bit later.
Well, mate, you got a one-day international hat-trick at the MCG.
That's debatable, actually.
So, I want to ask this. So, Mike Hussey did a great job on the rope.
It missed 4 sets of stumps.
The second one was LB, and the third one, I'll let Dan explain it. Dan, if that was you that was wrapped on the pad for that third one, would you be happy that
I would
you
have walked.
tucking the bat under the arm?
No, I would have walked. It looked absolutely plumb live.
Your bat would have ended up in Bay 13.
We were really lucky. I was lucky. To be fair, I was lucky that series because 2012, 11-12, and DRS had started around the world. There were lots of series going on that had DRS. However, at that stage, Sachin and MS Dhoni, they didn't trust it yet. So whenever India played in any series, then there was no DRS. So we played this series without it, and first one caught on the fence, second one was plumb, and then the third one was probably just missing leg reverse swinging. But thankfully Rod Tucker got caught up in the moment and went up with me and the rest of the crowd and got myself a one-day hat-trick.
I like the fact that he spins it positively by saying it was a beautiful reverse swinging ball. It was doing a lot. Yeah, he set him up for it. He didn't see it coming, whatever like that. Hey, just back at the start of your career, mate. So under-19 World Cup, which the Aussie boys got done this week, which was great to see. You won it in 2002. Was there any inkling of the personalities that would become of Cameron White, George Bailey, and in particular one of Hads' favourite humans on earth, Shaun Marsh?
Shaun Marsh, yeah. Shaun had already played. He probably already played 10 or 15 Shield games by then. We were only 18, and Cam had already been playing for Victoria as well. It was a pretty amazing team we had. I think there's only one guy that hasn't gone on to play sort of state cricket at some sort of level. We had a few guys, like Jared Burke ended up playing 2020s for New South Wales. He opened the batting for us. And then you had Craig Simmons, who scored a couple of great BBL hundreds a while ago. And then Shaun Marsh, Cameron White, George Bailey, Mark Cosgrove, Adam Crossweight ended up playing a lot of state cricket. Bo Casson played Test cricket. Xavier Doherty played Test cricket. Aaron Bird, who was one of the quickest bowlers in the country for a while there. Rob Castle did well for South Australia and Victoria. And then myself, I was on the bench for the final. Craig Phillipson played a lot for Queensland. I think Adam Fleming was a fast bowler from New South Wales. He was the other one. Didn't end up... He was probably the only one that didn't play some sort of state cricket. So... very, very successful team and did not look like losing a game at all throughout the tournament. So, did I think that so many of us would end up going on and playing for Australia and having decent first-class careers? Probably not. But, certainly an extremely talented team. I was lucky enough to be the bowling coach for those Aussie 19 boys a few months ago. They had their own Ashes tour over to England and played some one-dayers and a couple of 4-day matches against England. So I got to know them quite well. So, and they're a fantastic group of boys, and I'm not really surprised that they had the success they did in the last few weeks in that World Cup. But I sent a few of them messages after the game the other night and said, I hope you're doing what Sean Marsh, myself, George Bailey, and Adam Crosswaite did after the game, and you're sleeping on the cricket pitch. We went out. We went out.
Barnaby Joyce.
Yeah, Barnaby Joyce.
Was he the team manager?
Yeah, Wayne Phillips actually. He's the cricket version of Barnaby Joyce, I guess. We're in Christchurch in New Zealand, and the tournament was held at Lincoln University, which is just outside Christchurch, and we were staying at the university, and we went out in town that night. There's an enormous sports bar pub place in Christchurch, or there used to be anyway, called the Holy Grail. It's kind of like a big amphitheatre, and was an enormous joint. And we got out of there at, I don't know, maybe 2-3 o'clock in the morning, got back to the hotel and decided we didn't want to go to bed, so we sort of picked up all our doonas and pillows and whatever else we could carry, and took them back out onto the ground, and with a few more drinks, and just sat in the middle of the wicket, and eventually went to sleep.
How good. I don't think we can top that story, Dan. So we're going to let you go and get your driver in your hand and do what you love doing at the moment in your spare time. But mate, that awesome story to finish with. Thanks so much for joining us, and we'll catch up soon on Willow Talk once more.
No worries. Thanks, gents. Thanks for having me.
Before we get to risers and fallers, Hads, just what Dan touched on just then. Falling has ever slept on a cricket wicket? And if it's not a Valentine's Day theme here, so I don't want to know back in your Queanbeyan days if you took a young lady down to show her what you do.
You got a sick mind, sick. But I tell you what, I have seen on cricket wickets.
What?
On a Saturday Sunday game.
Yeah.
35 degrees one day, 35.5 the next. How there can be a wet spot in one part of the wicket. I've seen ice just grow on a good length in different times in club cricket back in Canberra. It was funny how the surface could change so much. But
remarkable.
Knowing where your mind's going, you might have been the problem on some of those wickets.
Wouldn't have been me. Risers and fallers, Bradley. Dave Warner for giving, as you mentioned earlier in the podcast, for giving this young fan a player of the series trophy. Not the safest trophy. It's got some kind of jagged edges at the top there, but hopefully got it home safe and sound. It's a nice little memento for the little fella.
Well, if you have watched closely enough, watch the modern day player when they get out. Like David Warner nearly does it every test match. He walks off and there's kids over the race. He hands them his gloves.
Yep.
You've seen a number of players do it. I've seen Steve Smith. I've seen Marnus. So those little moments get missed. So I'm glad, David, this one got seen. Look, we're just looking at the photo of the young fella there. He smiles from ear to ear. And I tell you what, that's the last time David Warner will be ever seen in Australian colours in Australia.
Yeah, good point. Nice parting gift.
Good memorabilia piece.
From a young for a young fan. Test cricket today back at the Wacker, which is great to see. The Australian women taking on South Africa's women. And Mike Hussey was at training giving tips to Beth Mooney. What's the best piece of advice Mr. Cricket gave you, Hads?
I hope he didn't give Beth Mooney the same advice he gave me.
Which was?
He said, play every game for Australia like it's your last.
Okay.
Which is great.
Yeah.
But also celebrate every game for Australia like it's last. Win, lose, or draw. So Mr. Cricket gave me great advice, and halfway through the conversation, Maurice come into that and said, celebrate or commiserate.
So Maurice is?
Mr. Hussey.
Maurice Hussey and Mr. Cricket. So we look at Mike Hussey as like this just complete
legend.
Cricket nerd.
Yeah.
And, straighty 180.
Yeah.
But he could get a little loose with the best of them.
No, where Huss was the best fun.
And he's not here to defend himself, so I shouldn't go too far.
He doesn't have to be. Where he was the best fun, Huss enjoyed every win for Australia.
Okay.
As I did.
Yep.
But we also had to solve some problems of the world when we lost them. So we spent equal amount of time in the change room, win, lose, or draw.
So he would, after a loss, he would sit there and just try and work it all out there and then.
Mate,
did
yep. Then once that's done, you go to training 2 days later or 3, depending on what you really had to get into and get ready for the next match. But his best piece of advice was play every game for Australia like it was your last. And Huss and I both debuted in Test cricket when we were 30. So, mate, every game we had was a bonus.
Yep. Nice work, though, from Huss to help out the Australian women's ahead of that big Test match. And another riser, Sean von Berg, 37-year-old, debuting for South Africa in the second Test, if I can call it that, against New Zealand in Hamilton. On you, Shawnee. Test debut.
Well, yeah, there's a lot of talk about South Africa sending their B team, but Sean, 37 years of age, in his wildest dreams, he would never thought he was going to get a Test match, and now he's standing in front of New Zealand team eye to eye playing in a Test match. Well done.
How good. Fallers, Nick Maddinson not offered a contract by the Renegades. BBL signing embargo still in play, but expect some player movement by the way. Josh Brown, who made a name for himself late in the BBL, obviously, this season, he's linked to the Gades. So, yeah, Nick Maddo.
Well, mate, Josh Brown's the one. If he's linked to the Gades, right, that's disappointing for the Brisbane crowd. He was a bit of a fan favourite. Another faller is Mike Atherton not getting his facts right. Look at Sam cringing over there.
Well, turn around. Turn around. Can you see it? Turn around. There you are. That's going to cheer you up. And happy Valentine's, Brad.
I told you.
Yeah.
I'm laughing. And just before that moment there, I said, and Michael goes, "Is he behind you?" And I said, "Yeah." I said, "Watch this." I said, "I'll keep going." He said, "Go, go, go." So all I was doing is congratulating him on his first Test wickets. Big moment.
Yeah.
Let's get behind the line.
Well, there's your Valentine's card that you can send Ben to say happy Valentine's and also happy 100 Tests. B Stokes, congratulations.
Mate, there's a couple of 100 partnership there with Clark as well. So I don't know what they're talking about when I shut up.
That was Willow Talk this week. Have a great weekend, everyone. Yeah, thanks for watching the Willow Talk podcast on YouTube. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button so you don't have to miss an episode wherever you are. And while you're at it, check out these videos up here. They're mostly good.